Hello there, wellness entrepreneur. Welcome back. Today, we're getting into part two of the Yes Frequency three-part series. Today is all about selling in Yes Frequency. Yes for you and yes for them. It's a win win. But before we get there, I want to remind you that the doors to the Instagram Message Makeover Clinic are closing soon. We start the first week in October. This is the 3-month group program, small group program with lots of opportunities for me every single week to get personal feedback on your content, on your messaging, ideas, and so much more to help you magnetize your ideal clients to your business, to catapult your business to 6 figures and beyond. Whether you are wanting to transition fully online, 100%, have a hybrid practice, or this is still important. Instagram is the new website if you're brick and mortar as well. So make sure you get registered for that to join us. I will be giving out in this group program. We have weekly calls for personal feedback. Plus, you'll never have to guess what to post or what to say because I am going to be showing you what's going viral each week. So you have ideas as well as prompts that you can literally copy and paste that are specific. No other Instagram program is specific to wellness practitioners. So get joined and I'll see you there. All right, let's talk about now yes frequency in selling. Because here is where I often see a lot of heartbreak, where you do a lot of work, meaning all the marketing. Last week was the yes frequency in marketing. So go listen to that if you haven't already. And you finally get someone to a consultation or even a workshop, and you're having that conversation with them afterwards, and they ghost you. They said they're excited, they want to work with you, you're exactly what they need, but yet they don't move forward. And at this point, a lot of wellness entrepreneurs think the problem is their price, their offer, their sales skills. But what's really happening sometimes, or a lot of the time, is that you might unconsciously, now I'm not saying you're intentionally do this, but you maybe are in a little bit of scarcity mindset because you want more revenue, or you just want validation that your program works and you want more people in there, or you desperately just want to help more people. Because of any of that, you're not really going into the selling completely clean. And what's happening is you end up trying to convince someone to buy something instead of helping them to decide from a very clean place, non attachment on your end, to decide what really is the best decision for them. And when you're coming from that non attachment place, and you're helping to uncover the unconscious beliefs or thinking, or even what they're doing in their day to day that's holding them back, to help them realize how you are the answer to solving their health struggle, then it becomes the yes energy for them. So that's what we're going to talk about today, is how to get into more of this yes energy. We're going to break down how to create sales conversations that feel like identity activations, not interrogations. And don't beat yourself up if you do find yourself convincing. Because here's the truth, there's a lot of programs that tell you on a sales call or in a sales conversation that you do need to convince someone or manipulate someone to buy. However, I want to tell you it's outdated. I've even been there myself. Or sometimes, I'm a human being. I have old money mindset patterns that lead me to scarcity. So I'm not perfect either. But the thing is, if you can recognize it right there in the moment on a sales call, you can switch it immediately when you know what to do. All right. So don't beat yourself up. This is not from judgment or criticism. This is an opportunity to move forward, to be a hell yes for you and them. So let's talk about what's going on. You get on a call with someone who found you through your content. Yay, your marketing worked. Huge win. That's amazing. They're interested. They have a problem you solve. They even have the budget. Maybe they marked it on the form, but 30 minutes in, you can feel them start to pull away. They start asking about payment plans or mentioning that they need to think about it, or it's more than they plan to invest, or they suddenly start bringing up concerns that weren't there in the beginning. Here's what most practitioners think: that the person on the other end, the potential client, that they can't afford it, they're not ready, they're not a good fit. So you start ruling them out, or you start beating yourself up. I'm not good at sales. my program is not what they want, the pricing is way out of the neighborhood, all that starts happening. But what is actually really happening, because all of that are just stories, is you're trying to sell them from their current identity instead of speaking to who they can become. I'm going to say that again. You're trying to sell them at their current identity instead of holding space because you know that they can achieve their goals. You believe in your program so strongly that you're going to help them get results. And if they're getting stuck or plateaued, that you're going to be able to help them figure it out, what's going on, and make a new plan and go for it again. You believe so strongly that you're going to hold space so you can talk to the person that really wants it. Because, if you go through the sales consultation process that I teach my clients, you're always asking for permission and they're saying yes. Then you're speaking to that person that really wants it. And now you just have to help them create a new identity where they also believe that they can do it. And this is the program for them and that you are going to help them achieve it. So when someone says, I'm not sure I can commit to this right now, what they're really saying is, I don't see myself as the type of person who can do this kind of thing, or I don't finish programs a lot, or I'm not sure about coaching or health coaching. I've never done that before, or I'm not very religious, so I don't know if yoga will work for me, or I am very Catholic and yoga might go against my religion. Or they might even have the thought, someone like me doesn't invest this kind of money on myself. Who am I to invest this kind of money on myself? My kids could use XYZ. I could put them in sport program or camp XYZ. Here's the truth. Most sales training teaches you to overcome objections with logic, urgency, or social proof. Now, sometimes you do want to do real urgency, meaning the doors are actually shutting. If you don't start now, the end of the year is going to be looking the same. Social proof, highly recommend telling the before, the after in your stories. And yes, sometimes you do need to sell with logic. But when you're on the sales call, clients aren't making logical decisions. They're making identity decisions. They're asking themselves, is this who I am? Is this possible for me? Can I do this? Is this who I'm becoming? If your sales conversation doesn't help them shift their identity from someone who struggles with this to someone who can achieve this, you're essentially asking them to buy something that doesn't fit who they really think they are or what's possible for them. So then they have hesitations or they'll say no, even when they desperately wanted the result or wanted what you're offering or have told you, I need to work with you, right? So when we shift and help them shift their identity, that is the yes frequency for selling. Yes frequency is when you guide someone through that identity shift during your conversation so that by the end, working with you doesn't just make sense. It's not just logical. It feels inevitable. It is the next step. They can see it so clearly. So instead of trying to convince them they need what you're offering, you help them recognize that they're already becoming or already are, they have it within them, the type of person who takes this kind of action for herself. And you might think, okay, Alison, how the heck do I do this? I used to think the same thing. So I'm going to tell you how now, and I'm going to give you a little sneak peek. It comes from a place of feeling curiosity in your body and asking questions as to why they might be thinking or believing a certain thing, such as they don't have the time to do the program right now, or they've worked with many other practitioners in the past and it hasn't worked. What might be different? What is going on there? This isn't manipulation or high pressure tactics. It's again, identity activation. You're not creating a new identity for them. You're helping them connect with the version of themselves that's already there and wants to emerge or is starting to emerge. When you're operating on yes frequency for selling, three things happen. They have that identity recognition. They start to see themselves as someone who's ready for this level of transformation. They have a belief shift. So their internal story changes from I can't or hesitation or doubt to I can do this. And it's a natural alignment. Working with you starts to feel like an expression of who they're becoming, not a departure from who they are. I remember I had a wonderful yes frequency on my sales call several months ago with one of my clients who's working with me now. And she said, she's like, oh my gosh, when I gave her the plan of what we'd be doing together, she's like, oh my gosh, I've been manifesting a coach like you. And she said like a few other sentences that mean that thing, how she'd been really hoping and trying to find a coach exactly like me. That is yes frequency. I love hearing things like that on sales calls all the time. In fact, recently I had someone crying on sales call and in her first few sessions because she had so much doubt and fear and a lot of anxiety and stress just kind of stored down deep. And when things started resonating and she started shifting her belief and believing in what's possible for her and believing in herself that she can do it, all that stored up tension and anxiety and fear and doubt, it all just started coming out. And so there can be so many amazing moments for you as a practitioner and, of course, for the potential client and the clients who then become your clients that are just transformation after transformation, win after win, and these can be small leading to the bigger ones. That's why we do the work, right? Think about the last time for yourself when you made a significant investment in yourself. I bet it wasn't because someone scared you into doing it or overwhelmed you with features. Sure, your logical brain will want to check out some of those details for sure. But I can't tell you the number of programs I've purchased that I didn't really know all the details for. I just had that yes energy like, this is what I need to do. I believe I can do it. This is what, either I need in my personal life or in my business. And I just sign up. And then I'm like, wait, how many calls did I get? How long are the calls? Like, da da da, all the details. And this is true for any program. It's not the features that get the result, it's you showing up to whatever the container is and then every time you show up, whether it's watching a replay or on a call, that you're getting 10 times the actual time that you're putting in. So the time doesn't really matter. The features don't really matter. I say this a lot of the time is like what you're selling is Hawaii, right? Your clients are in, maybe a really cold town that has snow most of the year and they're really wanting to get to that tropical paradise on the beach and that's where we're going, where the features is just the airline, right? Whether you're gonna have a reclining seat or peanuts, and yes, there's some experiences that of the plane flight that make it more enjoyable, but, I mean, at the end of the day, you're gonna get to Hawaii, that's the whole goal, and over time, you can keep evolving your flights so they get better and better and better, but it's knowing you are knowing and the clients are knowing, okay, this plane is getting me to Hawaii. I'm going to Hawaii. And that is yes, frequency selling, not pushing them, not manipulating them, not convincing them. You're helping them to step into their own evolution. All right, so let's break this down. This is where your sales calls transform. Instead of feeling like you're interviewing them, where you're trying to prove your worth or list out your certifications, they become collaborative conversations about their transformation. So your sales calls actually can become a transformation. People hang up or end Zoom feeling inspired, regardless of whether they enroll or not. I can't tell you the number of sales calls I had where I've had someone that's gotten off and then I get a message in the DMs or through emails. They come to me with their program already in place, but there's doubt behind it in different ways. This manifests in different ways. But then I validate their program and their offer essentially on the sales call and they believe in it. They shift their own identity, right? That's what we're talking about here. That I get a message sometimes 24, 48 hours later saying, hey, I just signed a client. You shift my belief in my program. I went out there and I signed my client. So they didn't do anything different. They didn't even officially start the program with me. They just shifted their identity. They shifted their belief and they signed a client. And that can happen again for you too. My client, Jess, we just started to shift her belief in her sales calls in terms of what she was naming them. She was calling them a free coaching call because she didn't think people wanted sales calls and she didn't like sales calls. But what ended up happening was she was doing a lot of free coaching and they weren't really converting to clients. And that was becoming a drain. And she started to doubt things in her business, but she's a very talented practitioner. And the dancers in her world really needed her program. She's really going to change, she is, I should say, changing the face of the dance industry. And all we did was change the structure of what she was doing within the sales calls. And shifted it to like, no, her belief, her identity that people wanted what she wanted to have. She had to believe that and guide them through the process of making sure, like, why do they want this? This is a good fit for them. Jess and the program are the perfect next step, and actually marketing them as a sales call. And she went from 4 to 5K months to 9K months consistently. She was able to buy her dream home with her husband and daughter. They were able to move. She didn't have to add more hours into her schedule. All she had to do was shift how she was marketing something, the name, and her identity and belief, which enabled her potential clients to shift their identity and belief. Objections, when we do this process, will start to dissolve naturally. When someone sees themselves as ready for change, concerns about time and money and capability, all of that will start to feel like old stories rather than current reality. So we're going to go over this in the how to, but just stick with me for a moment because that might feel esoteric. And when you're doing this, selling will become a service. You stop feeling like you're pushing and convincing and manipulating and start feeling like you're offering exactly what someone needs to step into their next level. So you're going to start marketing your consultations, your discovery visits, your program on a whole new level because you feel really good about it. You're not going to feel icky and slimy and be like, oh, now I have to get on a call and try to convince someone to work with me again. You're going to be like, this is such an amazing opportunity for them. I can't wait to help start the transformation. Okay, so how do we do this? Step one, the identity bridge method. This is helping them connect with who they're becoming, not just what they want to fix. So many wellness practitioners spend sales calls, discovery visits focused on the problem. Tell me about your symptoms, how long it's been going on, how is it affecting your life? We need that. But also, you want to be looking in that intake section for the beliefs that are going to hold them back from saying yes. So, for example, they might be saying, well, I'm not sure that I have time to track all my food, right? They're going to have a time objection there. I'm not sure I'm the person who can cut out dairy. I love dairy, right? They're going to have a particular food objection, right? I'm not the type of person, I don't know if I can make a 60-minute yoga class every week. Again, another time objection. Or I'm so busy racing all around, like I always am forgetting things and I never finish anything. They're going to be saying phrases like this in the beginning of the call during the intake section. And you can even ask questions. So if they say something like that, you can ask questions. Why is that? Oh, that's curious. And go deeper. Pull that thread because often you don't have to say anything. Just by questioning why, they will question themselves. Why am I doing that? And realizations and insights happen. And that allows the window for the identity shift. Well, they'll tell themselves, actually, I don't need to do that. I don't want to show up that way anymore. That doesn't make sense. That's not even logical. Why have I been doing that? Right? You're going to bring awareness for them before you even talking about the program, right? You're going to shift the identity before you even get to mentioning the program. Because then that time objection, that dairy objection, the ability to move in a yoga class, gone, right? So you want to ask the questions in the intake section on, yes, the symptoms, what's happening, but also you're listening for those objections that might come out or hesitations or doubts they might have about themselves or moving forward with the program. And you're going to ask them about it. Just get curious. You're just being from a place of being curious. You can say, tell me why you feel that way. What's going on? Who would you want to show up as in 6 months from now? What would be success for you? I can see that woman in you right now. What do you think she would say about this opportunity? There's all different kinds of questions. This isn't about having a script. It's about you being open and an active listener, staying in curiosity for the natural questions to come. And then it's about shifting the language of the conversation from having a problem to embodying that person who is the transformation. Instead of, do you think you can commit to a meal plan where it's more like you filtering them? You can ask, what I hear is that you've had trouble sticking to a meal plan in the past. Tell me about that. Why is that? And they might even say, actually, I want to stick to a new meal plan. But if you're able to help them problem solve that, why, what was happening, then they can believe, oh, I actually can stick to meal plans. I'm going to go forward. Or for me, I have people that come to the call and say, I actually really hate Instagram. I'm like, oh, yeah, I hear that a ton. Why is that? And we talk about it. And then I'm able to provide different perspectives or opportunities that they haven't yet considered for themselves that they can try on and say, actually, yeah, I actually want to try that because I've been hearing and seeing friends that are on Instagram and they're successful. And I want that for myself too. So another shift might be instead of, are you ready to invest in your health? You can say, it sounds like you've been having difficulty staying consistent with some of your self care activities. Tell me what's been happening, what's going on. And they might say, well, my baby's really colicky, or I have a child with an autoimmune thing, or I have a child that is on the spectrum and they need additional time and extra care. Or they might say, well, my parents, they're very sick right now. They're going to unload on you the obstacles that are in the way. It's not because they don't want to invest in their health. It's not because they're not ready. It's not because they don't value you or your program enough. It's because they literally have roadblocks. They need someone to help figure it out. And you might say, well, I'm not a time coach, Allison. I'm not a schedule coach, Allison. I'm a health practitioner. I help with the health. But you have to think bigger, right? I can't tell you the number of physical therapists who, get so mad at their patients for not doing their home exercise programs. But there's a lot fewer number, and they judge them, they criticize them, they say, oh, they're just not ready. They don't care about the stuff. They're lazy, all this stuff. It's horrible, right? I don't hear many of them. There's a few, and a lot of them being my clients because they're wonderful, or other practitioners. But I'd say it's a lot less who actually take the time to ask them, well, what's going on? Tell me about your schedule. Or tell me about what you're really feeling about this exercise program. Because maybe a practitioner, this happens quite frequently. I used to be there when I first started as a physical therapist. I would give them like 10 exercise in the very first evaluation. It's overwhelming, right? So it's my fault they're not doing the exercises. Not them. They're overwhelmed. They don't know when they're going to fit 90 minutes in their schedule, right? But you never know until you ask them. They might have some real life stuff going on. In fact, most of us do at any given moment, right? As a practitioner, you need to think outside the cookie cutter box of just delivering the protocols. These are human beings, right? I know you have this, develop that compassion because you want to change people. You want to help them. That's the whole reason why you get in there. It starts in the very first discovery visit or call. So you can ask them, like what's going on and talk with them about it. I would tell you, it shifts everything. People are so grateful when you help them. And then they start implementing it. And that's when they start seeing the results instead of just, writing them off. Oh, they just don't value their health enough. They don't value my program. They don't value my time. It's a different way of looking at it. And then, when you've had that identity shift where you see their body language shift, I literally will see someone coming from like being closed off or leaning back or a furrow on their face to when they realize, oh my gosh, yes, I can do that. I can make that shift. That feels totally doable. And then you tell them the plan that you're going to work on together. And they're like, yes, that's exactly what I need. They're lit up. They're excited. They're sitting tall. They're in the yes energy. And it just comes from those two shifts, right? Helping them identify where they are. And then step two, help them shift into the becoming of that new identity and the problem solving and asking the questions from curiosity instead of feeling like you have to convince or manipulate or filter people out to make sure you have a good fit. And yes, there's all spectrums of clients. Some are going to need more handholding and help than others. But I tell you, the wider, diverse amount of people you work with, the better a practitioner you're going to be. I'll tell you right now on my roster, I'm working with a lot of people right now. They're amazing, 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 amazing. And I didn't sit on the calls filtering them, being like, this one's going to be a lot of work, coming to me because we start the process of the shift of the believing right in the beginning. And now you might be thinking this is a little too woo for me or for my practical clients. But here's the thing. Here's the truth. Every purchase decision is an identity decision. People aren't buying from their logical brain, they're buying from their primal brain. They're buying from emotion. When someone buys a gym membership, they're not buying access to the equipment, right? The features, the airplane. They're buying into someone who works out because they want a certain feeling of confidence or strength in their body, or how they feel when they put on clothes, or how they feel when they show up at the beach. When you're hiring a financial advisor, they're shifting into someone who takes their money seriously and is confident about finances and knowing how to invest wisely. Your practical clients are making the same identity based decisions for health and wellness. They just might not use that language. The beauty of yes frequency selling is you can adapt the approach to match their communication style while working on this shift. And you might be wondering, well, what if they're not really ready for this identity shift? Well, that's actually perfect information, right? Not everyone who comes to a sales call might be a yes. Maybe they really aren't ready. Maybe they can't connect with the vision of who they're becoming. Maybe they really aren't ready for transformation yet. But the truth is, through this, it's going to emerge and then they get to decide, do they want to step into it and be a yes, or they can say no, right? And then you've just saved yourself months of working with someone who may have struggled with the commitment and blamed you for their lack of results. So you're going to help them make a clean decision because you're coming from a clean place, not just trying to force or manipulate someone into the program. And it's not from a place of filtering them. They're actually going to decide themselves, right? And all you have to do is show up being present, actively listening, and curious to ask the questions. And truthfully, this is what really has changed everything for me. Instead of having to feel like I need to tell all the features of my program or all my certifications or all the many things I do in the program, which can get really overwhelming, or starting to give them all the answers right there on the consultation call, I'm just able to stay curious about them and then give them a succinct plan from that hell yes energy. So your homework this week is, and it's going to feel vulnerable, but it's so worth it because you might not get it right the first time or first several tries. For me, it took a bit of time. Maybe you'll get it much quicker than me. But for your next sales conversation, you want to connect and get curious with them on what is going on and why, and who they want to become and why, and what's really standing in the way of that and why, and get curious and just say, I'm curious. Why is this? Why is this happening? And that is how you'll master the yes frequency from marketing to selling. And then next week is going to be actually activating that identity even more for them in the program, in the delivering. And that is how you're going to create raving fans. And if you, of course, want to work with me on this whole process from marketing, selling, and delivering all these areas of your business, then your next step is to book a consultation and you can experience this process in real time. All right, I'll see you next week for the delivery. Bye for now.